What's up, family? Welcome to the inaugural episode of the One Fourth Careers podcast. Here we strive to help you identify the career path that's right for you, ultimately contributing to at least 1/4 of your overall happiness. I'm Xavier, your host, and I am here with Irene. Irene graduated from The Ohio State University with a Bachelor of Science in Biological Engineering in 2019. Now, Irene works as a technology consultant at Accenture, a global consulting and technology company. Irene, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for stopping by. How are you?
I'm doing good, Xavier. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and do this.
Nah, for sure. Look, we about to have a good time. I always enjoy our conversations, and we're gonna have a really rich one now with some good content. Sound
Yeah,
like a plan?
I like it. I like it.
Cool. Well, I already know a little bit about you, but for the purposes of this conversation, give me a little bit more of a deep dive of your background. Where are you from? How'd you get to OSU? Whatever you want to share.
Yeah. So, hello, everyone. My name is Irene Onyawa. I was born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio, to Nigerian parents. So, I'm a Niger girl, through and through. Grew up in Cincinnati, decided to get out of there and go to Ohio State for undergrad because everybody I went to high school with was going to Cincinnati. I was like, you know what? I need a change of scenery. I've been in Cincinnati basically my whole life. I need to slowly start to spread my wings. So I wanted to be a little bit further from home. So went up to Ohio State. I'm a Buckeye. Decided to do. I ended up getting my degree in biological engineering. But before I actually started at Ohio State, had the opportunity to participate in an engineering bridge program called Preface, and that bridge program was meant to help like minority or underrepresented students break into the engineering field.
I
So
love
I'm
it.
so glad I did that because I honestly, if I didn't do that, I probably wouldn't have stuck it out in engineering, to be honest. So it was good to like build that community, have people who are able to look out for you, people who've
Right.
already went through that experience, already have engineering degrees and able to like, kind of like mentor you and provide guidance along the way. So I am so grateful for that program because honestly, I wouldn't have made it without it. So that was a great program I was part of. Also, while I was at Ohio State, I was heavily involved in NSBE, the National Society of Black Engineers. I 100% recommend that organization. Like, if you are interested in being an engineer or an undergrad, even if you're in high school, there's like a NSBE Junior, so it's a good way to get involved and kind of network and kind of get your feet wet to figure out like, oh, is engineering for me? Is this something I want to do? Because there's so many fields in engineering, so it's definitely a great opportunity, great way to network. I met my biggest community of folks being in NESME. Some of my really close friends or my best friends are from NESME. So definitely built a community that you stick with for life. And I'm so grateful for that. During my time at Ohio State, I kind of like explored a lot of things. When I first applied, I was interested in biomedical engineering because at the time I wanted to be a doctor. Who that dream died quick after that first year. I had to go out the window. I was like, actually, I care about people, but do I care that much? And I was like, I do, but the time that you got to put into it, it wasn't something I wanted to give up to do that.
Yeah.
So had to kind of like explore other things. So when I was started off, I was biomedical engineering major, did my engineering bridge program preface. During that time, I got exposure to a professor who was doing a lot of like research in the blood lab. So at the time, I had transitioned to chemical engineering, worked in that lab. That was a cool experience, but I knew like, okay, blood, me and blood don't mix. I don't even know why I thought it was something I could do.
Can't do
I
it.
learned real quick after that year. It was a good learning experience. Did get me more exposure into another space of engineering, which did pique my interest. I was just like, blood, just not my thing. So I transitioned to biological engineering. I was so glad I did that program at Ohio State. It's under the umbrella of food, agriculture, and biological engineering. So they call it FAB. And it
Okay.
gave me so much exposure to like different types of engineering because some of the classes I took, I learned how to make cheese. We learned how to make beer. Like it was
Oh,
so
y'all
like
was having a good time.
having a good time. Okay, so like people don't think that that's something that would fall into the engineering umbrella, but there's really so much flexibility. Like some of the jobs that you don't know exist
Mhm.
kind of touch on engineering. So it's definitely a great opportunity to kind of explore. And I love that program. It was really great. During my time there, I also got to get exposure to panels. So there was folks who graduated from the same degree program who came back, talked about their journey, what kind of occupations they decided to pursue. And basically it was like three big groups. So folks who got my degree were either going on to med school, getting a professional degree, or doing grad school. So that was one group. The second group was deciding to be either process or system engineers. So, being like a technical engineer. And then the last group was folks who were interested in being like a sales engineer. So doing like more like technical sales or doing consulting. So those were like the three big groups. Out of those, I was like, okay, I'm leaning towards the sales engineering consulting bucket because I don't really want to be too technical. I'm really trying to like not I wanted to be more like client facing and interact with people because I thought that's where my strengths lied a little bit more. So at the time, I decided to kind of pursue like the sales engineering route, but I didn't have any sales experience. So my first job out of undergrad was for an advertising firm as an account executive. So we were doing cold calls, reaching out to people, and I was like, oh, no, this ain't for me. This
Can't do it.
I was like, nah. I was struggling. I was like, oh, cold calling. When people call you and they trying to sell you something, but you don't
Yep.
want it. Like, why are
Yeah.
you calling me about this stuff? And they trying to convince you that you need it when, come on, you're like, my bread ain't even up.
I just
Why
hang
would
up.
I
I'm
know about this?
sorry.
I was like, I don't have the constitution for this. Like this, this was
Couldn't
too
be
much.
me.
I was struggling. And this was also like during the pandemic. So it bittersweet. I ended up getting laid off from that job. And I was like, dang, it sucks that I'm unemployed, but thank goodness I'm out of there.
Right.
So a little bittersweet. Um, During my time of like being unemployed, I decided to participate in a coding boot camp with Tech Talent South. They've probably changed their name and went through like a rebrand, but they were a great program. I'm sure they have other offerings, but at the time they had like a free coding boot camp for folks who were like recent graduates. So you were like graduated within 1 year of undergrad and you could
Mhm.
come in and upskill. So I did like a Java Spring Boot boot camp. And then I also did one for like data science. So that was a really good
Okay.
experience. I learned, okay, now I picked up some technical skills. This is not exactly the work I want to do. I'd rather be more on the functional side. So I did go through an unfortunate period of unemployment for like a year and a half. And I know y'all like unemployed for a year and a half.
Tough.
It was rough. I'm not gonna lie to you. Some of y'all might be struggling with being unemployed for a long time or having a hard time finding a job. And I do want to tell you there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but going through the journey, it's rough. It's rough. I thank
Yeah.
God that I was able to get out of it eventually, but yeah, it was rough. So it's like really important to have a good support system, having people who are doing like it's important you do positive self-talk, which I wasn't doing until like maybe 6 months before I got a job. I was going through a
Mhm.
year of low key despair. It wasn't good. It wasn't good, but it's good to
Yeah.
have a support system. Like my mom, my partner, my friends were really encouraging. Like, Irene, it's not gonna last forever. It's a tough time. Like it's a pandemic, so a lot of companies are like laying people off or aren't really hiring because it's a
Yeah.
pandemic. Everything shut down, so it was
Right.
tough time of me trying to like separate like, okay, this is just the environment I'm in. It's not a reflection of who I am, what experience I have, and how I'm performing. Like this is just an unfortunate situation, unfortunate time, but I will be able to get through it. So after a year and a half of being unemployed, I did eventually secure a job where I work now, Accenture at a tech consulting firm, which I'm very grateful for. To get that job, um, during the time of unemployment, I did reach out to my career services at Ohio State. So if y'all pay y'all tuition money and you're struggling to get a job, make sure you go back and leverage those resources. I know I wasn't
Go get
using
the
it,
goods.
but as soon as I got it, I said, okay, I paid this money. Let me let me come back and get it.
Tap back in. Tap
They
back in
were
immediately.
fantastic. So like don't feel like hesitant to reach out to you. Like they want to see like everyone that graduate, like they want to see all their students thrive and do well post graduation. So they're definitely a good network, a good resource to reach out to. They helped me get my resume together. Literally a week after getting my resume together, I got a call from Accenture, and then I went through the process. They were just chit chatting. I was like, "Oh, this is a nice company." Just chit chat. They're like, "Okay, you made it through your first interview. You ready to schedule your second one?" I was like, "This was my interview." So it was a really like quick, seamless process, which I really enjoyed. My second interview was with a great Black man who worked at Accenture, also in the tech space. He was phenomenal. When I went to my second interview, I was a little nervous because I was like, I've been unemployed for a year and a half. How this about to go? How this about to go? Yeah, but he was really encouraging, really motivated. He was like, Irene, calm down. Like, it's okay. I know, like, you're here for a reason. I know you got the skills. So all you need to do is deliver, calm your breath, like, get it together. I was like, I mean, girl, you know you that girl. Come on, let's let's get through it. So that was pretty good. Great second interview. Bet you got hired, and then I started with Accenture, and I've been here for almost 3 years now. So it's been pretty good ever since.
Look, she said that she's that girl. You still that girl to this day.
To this
To this
day,
day. Yeah.
just getting better and better.
Nah, see, I appreciate that. So you kind of give a really nice background, mention even how you got to Accenture, which we were going to get into later, but we still got some more good stuff to get into.
Yeah.
Now, you're a tech consultant. So for people who don't know what that is, how would you describe that to an average person?
Oh, that's a good question. And the thing with tech consulting, I would say it's very broad, but I will speak to more specifically of what I do. So in like the tech consulting space, I'm aligned to our Salesforce technology. And Salesforce, for the most part, is like a customer relation management tool. They have gone on to acquire many other acquisitions from like Tableau, Heroku, MuleSoft, and so on. So their platform has grown significantly, and there's so many applications for it across different industries. So my role is specifically coming into different industries, and now like pitch that the platform is like a good fit. Most of my day-to-day responsibilities has been kind of as a Salesforce business analyst. So I'll meet with the client, try to understand what their current state business is, figure out like the pain points, find out different opportunities for improvement, and then try to figure out how the Salesforce platform can come in and address those concerns and be a great application for their future state like development. So I mostly come in, help with drafting user stories, doing those requirements, and then beginning like the implementation. So those user stories help the developers and programmers actually build out the application, flesh it out, and then also going through the stage of testing it and trying to get everything to trying to break everything and make sure it works perfectly before you put it in the hand of the customer or the consumer so that they can use it and have basically a better experience. So yeah, mostly I do kind of like business and analysis work, and I also do testing as well.
See, I wish I could like describe my job as neatly as that. And look, I'm an engineer by trade, but even a lot of that, I'm like, that's over my head for real. I'm gonna let, I'm gonna let you keep that. Don't really
Mhm.
know what all that is, but really hoping for people who are interested, maybe there were some common terms, and if you're interested, you actually go look that stuff up. But definitely appreciate that overview. So, with you naming some things that I'm unfamiliar with, and I'm sure others are unfamiliar with, how would you describe some of the skills that you've observed really help you thrive in that role? Any certifications or anything? Like, what should be on people's radar of how do you become a tech consultant, and what are some things you should have in your toolkit?
Yeah, well, I think for a lot of people, you already have some of these skills. It's just kind of working on them. So, like communication, being an effective communicator and an effective storyteller is a really big part of the role. Being able to basically string the story of what the consumer is going to be getting. And you want to be able to deliver the value that would come with that and what their experience would be overall. So, I would definitely work on building up my soft skills around that. Make sure you have good organizational skills because sometimes the client may not be as structured as you would like to be. But so it's important you're able to take what they have, structure it in a way that's consumable for them to retain for future, because having good data is very important, but also for you to be able to take those requirements and also help with the overall application development process. So having those skills is also really important. For technical skills, I'm specifically Salesforce aligned, so I'll probably speak mostly towards certifications aligned to that. My first certification I recommend in the Salesforce ecosystem is definitely getting the administrator one. That one is a beautiful balance of functional and technical know how. And I think it kind of lays the foundation to build further on upon that experience. So I definitely recommend that if you're interested in the Salesforce ecosystem or being a Salesforce consultant or business analyst, that is definitely a good certification to start with because it helps build your technical acumen up, help you understand the language, and be able to have an overall better understanding of the environment. Some other certifications I do have in the Salesforce ecosystem includes the Salesforce Business Analyst one. the Omnis Studio Consultant one. And the most recent one I have is the AI Associate, which, Gen AI, AI as a whole is definitely very popular.
The hot
We're
thing.
familiar with ChatGPT, and there's so much potential with AI, especially for our clients and
Yeah.
the various industries. So it's really good to kind of equip your knowledge and your know-how and the language around that. So you're able
Mhm.
to understand opportunities that can come about when you're interacting with the client, where you can insert AI and make their experience overall, better. So there's definitely a lot
Yeah.
of flexibility there. Um, Another certification I recommend is not Salesforce aligned, but like I recommend people getting like Microsoft Azure or getting like an AWS like cloud practitioner certification. It's just good to pick those things up. They're not certifications I have yet, but they're definitely on the list of ones for me to get in the next few years. I do
Mhm.
recommend highly, and people have told me that it's a really good one to get. So I definitely recommend that one as well. And the certification I'm actually currently working towards is Data Cloud Consultant one. Of course, with AI, it's really important to have good data because you want to avoid hallucinations
Mhm.
and bad experiences associated with AI. So it's really important to kind of understand the data that goes behind that. So trying to build
Okay.
up my knowledge and expertise around that as well.
Yeah, that's dope. Really appreciate that. I know with certifications and some of those certificates, they vary in cost, they vary in time to acquire. So I know that a lot went into you getting those certifications. So shout out to you for that because I'm over here with no certifications. I'm like, I don't have time for that. But it is very useful for that space.
Mhm.
Um, Another thing I'm curious about that I think is really powerful that my own experience of kind of seeing how my skills translated to a new area. I'm an engineer by trade, went over to the business side of the house for strategy consulting. Would you
Yes.
say that you've seen people with different backgrounds as a technology consultant with different like degrees that they earn? How would you
Mhm.
describe kind of the diversity of academic background you've seen?
Yeah, I would definitely say the umbrella is huge in terms of background of folks coming into technology. As you guys probably know, like you could kind of transition from almost any industry into technology. I know plenty of teachers, nurses who work like even at Accenture and other IT consulting firms who come from, you know what I mean? Like you have expertise in a different background who are able to make that pivot and transition. And it's mostly because they have a lot of those soft skills. Like being able to converse appropriately with a client, being able to communicate effectively, organizational skills. These are soft skills that you already have in the space that you're currently in, and that already put you in a good leg because you already have experience there. Like most people who've been teachers, like teachers 10, nurses 10, 16 years. So you already have experience in that space. And being able to come into consulting, you never know. You might want to consult for a university or a school, and you were a teacher or professor, or might want to be consulted for the healthcare industry, and you've already worked in hospitals, so you already kind of have that background, that experience of interacting with clients like that, because then you already understand how they think. So that kind of gives you a leg up, especially if that's an industry that you want to remain in, but you kind of want to transition what your day-to-day responsibilities are. So there's definitely a lot of flexibility there. And you can always upskill and learn to code, like if you want to be a programmer developer, I've seen people all walks of life learn to code. They're like, hey, this is my bread and butter now.
Number one, I know the money's there. Number two, I know there's a skill shortage for it. But look,
Okay.
that's great. Y'all hear that out there? Soft skills are important. Technology and soft skills do go in the same sentence. So that is definitely like a gem that Irene just shared there. Something that I kind of want to start ending with, something I want to touch on is now that we've talked about what tech consulting is, your background, how you got there, some of the skills that you've acquired for that.
Mhm.
How would you describe the career path, the pathway itself of being a tech consultant, starting at what role, going up to another role? This could be specific to Accenture. It also could be generally how a person could think about what promotions look like and what those next steps look like once they enter tech consulting as a whole.
Mm. Well, there are definitely a lot of paths. I'll probably stick to more of like where I'm familiar with, which is mostly kind of like how it's set up in Accenture. So I came in our technology development program. People typically spend like maybe 2 to 3 years in the development program. During that time, like you're kind of like building up your skills. So some people are a little bit more technical, some are more functional. So functional is like on the business side, and then technical, there's folks who are programmers, coders, or people who are able to speak the technical jargon a little bit more. So with that, you could definitely there's so many roles you could do, but the role I would say most people typically start out in is as a business analyst, because that one kind of helps you build up a lot of the skill sets that you need to kind of progress in your career. So being able to understand like the requirements, understand what the business current state is, being able to understand like, different opportunities for improvements, the pain points of the client, being able to, consolidate the information that you're receiving and deliver it in a way that's, concise and short and brief. So definitely a great first role. There's definitely a lot of like building out process flows, getting to understand like end to end how the process works. So I definitely recommend folks, check out be a BA, and you don't have to leave the BA. Like some people make a career out of being a business analyst, like their whole career. And if it's something you like, I definitely recommend it's something you explore. But it's definitely a great foundational start, especially if you're trying to break into consulting. And then from there, you can work your way into being like a functional lead or technical lead, kind of like facilitating and leading your own work stream. You may facilitate workshops with the client that's helping you get the requirements, kind of putting together like the project plan of how you're going to go through like development and everything. So there's definitely a lot of progression there. In the consulting space, I would say a majority of folks kind of work their way to being like a delivery lead. So that's kind of the path I would say like most people typically take. So eventually managing other people, so helping kind of like delegate the work instead of being an individual contributor. You're kind of managing a group of people, helping them kind of develop and grow as well at the firm, and then kind of like managing their overall journey as well. So definitely a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, no, that's very thorough. Really appreciate that. Um, that is the bulk of kind of the questions that I had that I felt were super important. I suppose before we end, I'm curious to know, do you have any other advice, tips, anything that you feel is really important you want to leave the people with?
I would tell people like, try different things out. Like most for the most part, like, life is short. So definitely try things. If you're interested in something, definitely give it a shot and kind of like ignore the naysayers. Like of course there's gonna be people who've done things, they've lived their lives, they've experienced things and they could be like, oh, this is not worth doing. But if it's something you're interested in, the outcome could still be different because we're all individual people. We all have different skills, different life experiences. So if it's something that interests you, go for it, try it out. And if you don't like it, you can always pivot. And that's part of what I like about consulting. Like being in this consulting space, I've had different roles. Even on my current client project, I've tried different roles out. I've got to try some roles that are a little bit more technical, some that are more functional, and kind of figure out what kind of things I like and what I don't like. Even like a few years from now, I may not be doing the same role I'm doing right now. And that's okay. I'm open to exploring different things, kind of figuring out where my kind of niche is, kind of figuring out what kind of things I like, and I tell everybody like give yourself grace. Like sometimes we're really hard on ourselves and we really need to kind of like be okay with like trying different things out and being okay if some things don't happen as quickly or as soon as you want them to, because they'll get there eventually. Just, be patient in the process and have fun while you're at it.
Dang, crazy gems. Well,
Yes.
look, I really appreciate that. Those are some things that I need to keep in mind too. I still get told I need to do those things,
Yeah.
especially the grace one. But yeah, really appreciate that. Well, this was really a treat. This was fun. Really
Mhm.
appreciate you stopping by. And, all I can say to
Absolutely.
kind of leave you and everybody with is stay happy, stay blessed, and
Yes.
peace.
Peace.